Good morning, everyone. It's Mrs. Gershon here. This week we're going to be working on adding plurals to the end of our word. They're called inflection endings. Our words this week have a base word, which means a word that has an ending added to it. Sometimes it can have a beginning added to it, but in this case we're adding an ending. And by adding the ending es or s this week, we are changing our word from singular to plural, which we have worked on during our grammar lesson. So I want to talk about a couple of rules after we go through our list of how do I know to add s or es onto the end of a word. So let's go through our list first. We'll start up here. In our first column, we have eyes, boxes, pages, glasses, girls, bosses, speeches, and pieces. Next column, inches, bushes, wishes, riches, taxes, coaches, months, and plants. Last column, dishes, stitches, places, classes, dresses, houses, flashes, badges, and lunches. So if I look at my plural endings of s, I really want to look at my base words here. When I see just an s on the end, now this can be a little tricky because sometimes our base word automatically has an e on the end, like in the word eyes that I just underlined here. So my base word is I, so I'm not adding an es onto that word. I'm actually just adding an s. Let's go down here. Page. Our base word, it automatically ends with an E. It's spelled that way, so we're just adding an S. Then I have a word like girl, just has an S on the end from the base word. Piece down here. Piece automatically has an E, so you're just adding an S onto that word. So when you're sorting this week, you're going to have to be very careful. What I would suggest that you do when you get your paper is start to just underline or box your base words like I did here. That way you can see, does the base word end with an E? If it does, you're just adding an S. Or like most words like girls, like you saw in our first column, also just adding an S. Now there are some rules when you're adding es. Now first of all, adding es onto a word, you're not going to add es onto a base word that already ends with an E. You would just add an S because that would look funny. Like if I spelled the word pages, it already ends with an E. I'm not going to add another es. That looks a little funny. There are some rules to add es, and we talked about this during grammar. When your word ends in an X, an S, a CH, or an SH, you are going to add ES onto the end of that word. So I'm going to change my color over to blue here. Let's go ahead and look at our first column again. Our base word is box. Box ends with X, so you're going to add ES. Glass, as in glasses. Glass is your base word. It ends with S, so you're adding ES. Down here, speech is your base word. Ends with CH, you're adding ES. I'm going to come to my second column, bush. That ends in SH, so you're adding ES onto that word. So your endings of your base word will tell you whether or not to add S or ES. So be looking for those specific letters that I showed you up here, the X, S, CH, or SH. That's going to tell you to add ES onto the end of that word. I think the words this week, the meanings of them are pretty self-explanatory. I don't think any of these words are new to you. If you do have a question about the meaning of a word, just raise your hand and we'll come around. Again, when you get your sheet to cut out, I would highly suggest that you take your pencil and underline your base words first, because that will really help you to determine, first of all, does my base word already end in an E? If it does, I'm just adding S. Or what does my base word end with? If it ends with an X, S, CH, or ES, X, S, CH, or SH, I'm adding an ES onto the end to make that word plural. All right, grab your scissors and happy sorting.